Hi guys. So this is my first video back, and this is gonna be the third time that I filmed this video. And the first time I filmed it, I was really stressed out that day, and it was my first time talking about it. It was my first YouTube video in almost 2 years, so it was all over the place. I wasn't used to talking on camera. I was really nervous. And then the second time I filmed it, I just wasn't prepared. I didn't have notes. So I have notes now, and I really want this video to say everything that I want to say in it. But I first want to say that I'm really happy to be back, and I'm in a really good place right now, and I'm getting the help that I need. I've just started therapy last week, which therapy has been something that I put off since my 2018 New Year's resolution list. And I'm really grateful that I took the steps to start bettering myself, and that was something that I was really anxious for. So already I feel better going to therapy, talking it through, and getting everything out that I need to get out. So hopefully this video is the one that I end up posting. We're not filming this again. So yeah, I have my notes with me, and let's get into it. This is my first video in 2 years. I think the last time I posted was 2021. So that's kind of where I want to start everything off. In 2021, I didn't post on Instagram for like 6 months. And I never really explained why, and I'm gonna explain why in this video. Back then I was really embarrassed about it, and I was ashamed of everything that was going on, and I truly didn't accept it. So starting in 2020, I started to drink a lot with my boyfriend at the time. It was just something for fun. And it was really harmless at first. Just because of COVID, I just thought the world was ending and everything was gonna be shut down. We're all gonna stay in the house. So as soon as they announced that like everything was gonna get shut down, we went to Walmart and just got a bunch of alcohol and just a bunch of bottles, and we just started drinking at the house just for fun. And before that happened, I was drinking during my 21st birthday, because my birthday was in November, and then they shut everything down in March. So I started drinking a lot with my boyfriend at the time. In November 2019, I was 21, and I moved to Miami, and I just started getting into it a little bit, but it wasn't anything serious. It wasn't a problem, but that's how it started. And I was living in Miami at the time, and you know how Miami is. I mean, there's just clubs all the time. It's just such like a place for crazy nightlife. And we started going out, and then for random reasons we decided to move to Inglewood, and it is just a part of Florida, like right below Sarasota, Tampa area. And this is like 0 to 100 going from Miami to Inglewood, because Inglewood is like a retirement town. There's like no one there my age. So we moved there, and as soon as COVID happened and they announced that everything was being shut down, we went to Walmart and just got a bunch of alcohol bottles and just started drinking it and day drinking. And it was just a fun thing at first, and I thought it was harmless. I mean, I was still working out every day, I was still vlogging, I was still posting, I was still doing all the things that I needed to do, and it just was just a fun thing. And we ended up moving to Vegas a couple months after that, and I'm going from like house to house. I moved to this haunted house, and I didn't go look at it before I moved to the house because they were just really strict on rules, especially with like traveling and everything like that. So we just decided, okay, we'll just sign the lease. And it was really expensive, and it ended up being haunted. I'm serious. Like, my boyfriend at the time didn't believe in ghosts before we moved into this house. So Vegas ended up shutting down, so we didn't even like get to like go out in Vegas or anything. So we were just drinking at the house, and we ended up leaving that house and moving to another small house. It was way cheaper, it was way better. And I just started drinking like all the time. A couple months in Inglewood, you know, on and off, not every day. And then at the haunted house, we'd like day drink and stuff like that. But again, I was still on my grind and I was working hard. So to me, it was like, it didn't really matter. Then we moved to this smaller house, and Vegas opens up. So we just start going crazy, having fun, going to the strip. I mean, living out that like crazy Vegas life. And I remember it was like only a weekend thing. And then it turned in a weekend thing to, hey, why not go on a Wednesday? And let's just go stay at one of like Cosmo or one of the hotels out there and like have it be a staycation, and like we'll get our work done, we'll do this. We just kept, you know, making excuses. I remember after that moment that I said we should go out on a Wednesday, we just like started going out all the time. And it was like 6 days a week. We just started going out, thought it was harmless. What was fun before, it turned into pretty quickly into just like this awful toxic cycle. I stopped working out. I stopped working on what I needed to work on. I actually didn't post on Instagram for 6 months. It was like what I thought was rock bottom. I had this stalker situation, and I never really talked about this. I just kind of came right back on YouTube. But I had a stalker situation. Someone found out my address and got information about one of my exes and pretended to be him and called me and had like a half-hour conversation with me. It sounded just like him. It was so unbelievably scary. I was getting calls all the time for random numbers. People were putting sex toys in my backyard. I started boarding up the windows with like sheets and blankets, and I slept next to my gun. I would wake up at like 5 hungover from the next day, get ready, go out at 8, and then get back at like 3, 4, 5, sometimes 10 in the morning. And then I'd eat like shit and then go to sleep, and I was eating so many calories and drinking so many calories. I ended up gaining 40 pounds in like 6 weeks. My body just took it, just getting like 200 steps a day probably. I remember I weighed like 140 or 150 in November, and then I was 180 in like February, and then I finally stopped everything at April. I don't know what the realization was. I think maybe like the lease was coming up or something like that, and it was just like a huge wake-up call. I remember a really, really bad month was February and March because I have no pictures in my phone at that time, like absolutely none, and none on Snapchat, just nothing at all. I honestly don't even remember those months. Those months are just completely blacked out. A lot of that year that I spent drinking in that house, a lot of those memories are blacked out, and I just kind of pushed them aside. I didn't get any therapy, didn't work through anything. I was really suicidal. I thought it was rock bottom, and that's definitely one of like my harder moments. And then I came back to social media, and I never talked about it because I was ashamed. I felt dirty and gross. I felt like, how could a fitness influencer, someone that people look up to for fitness, fall down a hole like that? I was embarrassed and ashamed. I wanted people to look up to me, and I thought that would just be completely ruined by sharing that. And a part of me didn't share it because deep down I wasn't going to give up alcohol yet. So that went on, and I ended up leaving that apartment or house and moved to another house, and I was like, okay, this is my fresh start. I'm going to get back on my fitness grind, and I did. But still in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, ooh, I'm ready to go out again. I want to like look good. It was the summer, and I'm already thinking about the next pool party. I'm already thinking about hanging out, you know, going to the strip and having all that fun, and like I want to go on vacation and drink on vacation, and like that was the only thing on my mind. So when I was working out, the foundation of that fresh start wasn't what it should have been. The foundation, if the foundation isn't good, then there's nothing to build up from. You have to have a better reason to work out rather than, oh, I want to look good on this vacation, because you know, when that vacation comes, you're just gonna fall off and there's nothing to build off of. So I had no foundation and like just no passion for it, I guess. And I tried, and I went to the gym maybe for, I wanna say maybe a month. And then I started building an at-home gym, and I worked out from there a little bit. But as soon as I started to get results, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go back, you know. And maybe I tried to balance it, but I just didn't balance it. I couldn't balance it, and like just the time went on so quick, and I ended up losing all the weight. I mean, it took me like 6 or 7 months to do it because I wasn't truly focused, and I started hanging around the wrong people, and I started getting involved with, and it got to a point where I couldn't even feel the alcohol anymore because my tolerance was just so, there just wasn't any tolerance. I needed to do with alcohol. And it was awful. And I tried to give it up for a month, I remember EDC and my birthday was coming up, and I'm like, okay, I have to give it up for like a month, and maybe that lasted like 5 days. I just would constantly think about alcohol. It was the only thing on my mind. It's the only thing I wanted to do. I wanted to go have fun and ignore all my responsibilities. And I was just heading down an awful path. And I remember I was at EDC and I took a video of myself with my boyfriend at the time, like on the ground, and obviously my pupils were huge. You could see, you know, what I was on, and I was just so far from myself. Just so far from myself. I didn't even know myself anymore. I mean, the only things that I was posting on Instagram at the time were like just me out with friends, having fun, partying. Nothing motivational and nothing inspirational. I was just so far off from myself. And I just couldn't believe that like I was falling down that path again. So I posted a video of me laying on the ground with my eyes super huge, and this girl DM'd me and was like, who are you? You used to be so motivational, so inspirational, all about fitness, and now you're just on the ground, like on drugs. And seeing that DM, like, it woke me up. It is the thing that, and I like still thank her to this day. She's the reason that got me out of that pit. I needed that push, because during all those months, all that time of me just so far from myself, the person that I was with, and I'm not saying that it's his fault or anything like that, but I definitely needed a push. I needed a boost. And during all the darkest times of my life, I felt like I didn't have anyone helping me, keep me accountable, because you could only lift yourself up so many times. Sometimes you need a push, especially if you have someone in your life. And I just needed that push. So seeing that DM is what like got me up, and I was like, okay, I need to move back home and go with my parents to get myself out of this rut, because Vegas is just, it's bad for me, it's awful for me. And I just felt like, you know, I didn't want to be around those people anymore. I didn't want to be around the lifestyle of Vegas, and I ended up moving back home with my family. And again, never talked about the alcohol, because deep down I knew I wasn't going to give it up, and I was ashamed. And I remember during that time, like, I would only want to go on vacations because it was an excuse to drink. I would only work out because I wanted to look good when going out, and I knew that was wrong, and I knew that was off. And I started feeling that way in 2019 when one of my boyfriends, way back when I wasn't even really into drinking, he started introducing me to like the life of like going out and getting dressed up and that whole scene. And I remember even during my super fitness times, I remember thinking to myself like, damn, I wish it was a Friday, I wish I could go out. Or like I would remember like the motivator to work out was so I would look good on the weekends. That's not a reason to work out. If you want to make it a lifestyle, it can't be for one small little reason on the weekend. It can't be to go out and go drink and just fuck up all your gains. It has to be a deeper reason than that, at least for me. I would say for everyone else too, because that foundation can't be something temporary. So I ended up moving back home, and I was sober for 2 months at my parents' house. I was living in their basement, really thin walls, not the best living situation. I prepared myself for it, but the main reason I didn't like it is because my cats, because they're literally my life, and my parents have 4 German Shepherds, and they had anxiety the whole time. And at the time, I wasn't craving alcohol. I wasn't really thinking about it. I didn't have it on my birthday or Thanksgiving. My thing was like going out and drinking, and I wasn't gonna go out. I mean, there was nowhere to go out in the suburbs. And the other thing would probably be because I was just so like already exhausted from all of the drinking previous. So it just wasn't on my mind. There wasn't any decision to be sober, anything like that. That was not on my mind at all. I just didn't want it in the current moment. And we ended up wanting to go on a girls trip. I wanted to bring my family on, you know, just a little girls trip and treat them to that and spend time with them. And they both wanted to go to Vegas. Deep down, I didn't want to go, but also a part of me did. We ended up going to Vegas. We stayed there for a week, and I ended up staying there longer. I made the awful choice to meet up with those old people, those old friends who just were a bad influence on me. and I just started drinking again, and I live at one of the hotels in Vegas, Cosmo, for about maybe over a month, maybe like 6 weeks. And it was super expensive, just an awful choice to hang around those people and to just even be there. I guess deep down I just was not happy at my parents' house, or I just didn't want to go back. I went straight to an Airbnb in Chicago, in like the city. My parents are in the suburbs. And I got all my stuff and got the cats and stayed at this Airbnb. And that was my plan originally when leaving Vegas. I wanted to, you know, stay at my parents and then find a place in the city to live. So I started staying in Airbnbs, just short-term rentals. I'd stay in one Airbnb in an area for 30 days and then another for 30 days. And I wanted to live in Chicago, but I didn't want to like just put all my eggs in one basket. I wanted to do the correct thing and, you know, find somewhere where I wanted to live. I ended up finding this place in River North. I really wanted to start meeting new people. And around this time, when I moved into this River North apartment, I didn't go to the gym once, like at all. When I was at the Airbnbs, I was going a little bit, but then when I moved to this one apartment and I got my stuff settled, I just stopped going to the gym and just started to go on Tinder, meet new people. I wanted to meet people around the city. I wanted to go out. I wasn't doing hookups or anything like that, but I just wanted to meet new people and get out of my comfort zone and just have fun. And drinking, of course, that's involved. So I started going on dates and I ended up meeting this person. We ended up dating and we connected really well at first. We started talking about the thing that I really loved about him was that he opened up about his traumas and his deepest, darkest secrets, like on the second date. And that's something that I really admired and like looked up to. I just ran out of space, so if there's like a lighting change or anything, that's why. But I really looked up to that because I feel like we live in a day and age where people don't trust each other that much and a lot of people keep stuff in. And to me, I thought it was admirable, the stuff that he went through and that he overcame. And he went through a lot of deep, deep stuff. And I was really excited about the relationship. I told my mom about him and he ended up meeting my parents on like the third or fourth date. And I like just put all of my time and effort into him. And we met in April of 2022. And I just stopped. I wasn't working out or doing anything like that. I didn't even have my stock with me, and I don't know how I was planning on releasing anything when I didn't have it with me. Some of it was at my parents' house, some of it was in a storage unit, some of it was in another storage unit. It was just all over the place, and I would talk about releases on Instagram. I wanted to do it, and in my mind I just thought, you know, when the time came it would happen. And I just didn't do any of that. So I just kind of put everything on the back burner in my life and put all of my focus into this relationship. And all we did every single day was go out and drink. The entire relationship, that's pretty much all we did. And I really felt like I knew him, and I did. But obviously with all of that alcohol, a lot of fights happen, a lot of petty stuff happened, a lot of just miscommunication. But nothing ever got physical. It was, you know, we'd have verbal fights and stuff like that because of the alcohol. And around this time, I wasn't posting on Instagram. I wasn't working out at all. And the battery just died. I remember some like red flags would pop up. Like he would start screaming at me and yelling at me in public. And that's something that I really had an issue with. This is just, I guess it's a little bit uncomfortable for me to talk about. I have moved past it in a way. But it's still, I guess, difficult for me to just open up and talk about, just because I know I'm posting this for a lot of people to see, and I feel like that's why I've been having struggles filming this video, because in my mind I'm not just talking about it. I feel like I have an audience of thousands of people, and that's probably why I struggle getting the words out. Yeah, everything was fine until it wasn't fine. Christmas happened. Keep in mind, I was eating like shit. I was not working out. I was almost 200 pounds. I gained about 40 or 50 pounds. And it was a slow process. It wasn't like the first time it just didn't jump on me, but it was a slow process. So I didn't even realize I weighed that much. He didn't even realize. And in my mind, it was different the first time, because the first time I hit rock bottom, I was going to the casino. I would just sit at a machine. I was depressed. I would cry when putting on my makeup. I was suicidal. And when me and him were going out and drinking in the summer, we were going to baseball games. We would go to different places. We would day drink. We'd go to like sports games. I thought it was different. I started getting depressed like 6 months in. I slowly started to wake up and realize that I just was not myself at all. So the depression started to come around September, and he hit me in March of 2023. So it was way into the relationship, and honestly unexpected. He ended up doing it once, and I'm just getting right into this, guys. This is my 3rd time filming it, and I'm just gonna be open and be raw. But he ended up doing it the first time, and it was really shocking. And when it happened, during our relationship, I wasn't telling my family anything that was going on because I wanted to make this relationship right. I thought I was gonna marry this guy. I was fully invested and committed, and I just wanted to do things right. So I wasn't telling my mom anything that was going on. My family, I wasn't telling him anything. None of the fights, anything. It was just, everything's good, everything's fine. And when it happened, I remember calling my sister crying. I remember bits and pieces, but I remember calling her, and I still didn't tell her what he did. Like, I didn't end up telling my family what he did until I think weeks after the first time. Neighbors called the cops because of yelling and screaming, and I never told the cops what happened. I didn't want him in trouble. I just always still wanted to protect him. And I remember the second time it happened, it was actually in public. No one was around. It was like in the empty streets of Chicago at like 3 in the morning. Someone ended up seeing and then calling the cops, and I still didn't tell the cops anything. I just always wanted to protect him for some reason. I ended up telling my family after the second time. I called my mom crying, and it was really hard. The thing that hurt the most about all of it was that after everything happened, obviously he was kicked out, and he was staying with his family. He ended up telling his family the complete opposite story. He said that we were both physical. He completely twisted it, and then he was telling me like what I wanted to hear. He was telling me like, oh, I'm trying to change myself. I'm not that person. You have to trust me. I'm telling them the truth. I'm telling them the whole story, just how it is. And he was actually telling him the complete opposite. And he ended up admitting that to me, and I ended up hearing stuff, and that's what hurt the most because I trusted him. It wasn't even the physical. I mean, I say that now, but probably in the moment, it was both. But that is what stung the most, is that even after all of that happened, he was still like lying. And I ended up getting kicked out of my apartment because of all the noise complaints, because of all the yelling, because of all the drama. So I wasn't evicted or anything like that. But because of all the noise complaints and all of that, they just took my my request to extend my lease. They just denied it, so I needed to find a place. And I was truly at rock bottom, and that would have been like my darkest time of my life. I was suicidal. I was just at rock bottom, and I felt like I had no one to talk to, no one to turn to. This relationship that I invested my entire life and self into which almost just felt like a complete lie. I felt like I didn't even know him, and my whole world just felt like it was just beneath me, and it was just crumbling away, and I was left with nothing. And I felt weak and insecure, and I felt stupid for trusting him again. It was definitely the lowest moment of my life, and I thought in the moment it was never gonna get better. So needing to move out of my apartment, I looked online for places and I found my dream apartment, and it was expensive. And I ended up moving into it, and I used it as motivation to get my shit together, because I guess I needed that big push. So I ended up moving into the apartment, and around this time, when I went to go view the apartment, alcohol was just such a huge thing in my life. I toured the apartment, and I had like a Starbucks cup with me with like a mixed drink inside of it. Alcohol was just so prevalent in my life, I couldn't imagine going without it. I knew moving into this apartment that I didn't want to drink for a little bit, but I still, at this point, I wasn't planning on giving it up, which is so crazy sitting here now thinking about that I still, after all of that, wasn't gonna give it up. I just knew I wanted to stop it for a little bit. I ended up moving into the apartment, and I was there for a week, and my sister wanted to go to this Lana Del Rey song party, like a listen party. I didn't really want to go because I didn't want to drink, because I was already, I think, a week into being sober, and I just was like, you know what, I don't want to let her down, we're gonna go. We go, and I remember being pretty light on my drinking. I might have had like 1 or 2 at the house. And keep in mind, guys, my tolerance was just so fucked. From drinking all of the time, blackout almost all of the nights. I ended up slowing down my drinking because of the fights that me and him would have. I wanted one of us to kind of remember it, because the fights almost happened like every single night once like September hit. We'd fight a little bit in the summer, but it was almost every single night, so I started to slow down a little bit. But anyway, we go to this party. I remember I was like 3 drinks in, and I started bawling at the bar because I knew that I wasn't able to stop after having 3. And I didn't want to continue, but I just like knew I couldn't. And I ended up drinking that night, and that was March 31st. That was the last time I ever drank. And I was laying at the new apartment, and I was hungover, and I remember thinking like, I do not want to feel this way. And I didn't say out loud that I was giving it up. I just knew I didn't want to drink for a while, and I was serious about not drinking. I wanted to get my life together. I wanted to get my shit together. I wanted to get back to myself. And I think I was like a month sober, and I ended up going to a Sox game, and I remember buying a drink. Oh, bless you. 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 Hey. Oh, that is so cute. Okay. I ended up going to this Sox game, and I bought a drink. And I didn't take any sips, but I remember being there, and I ended up like getting into a little fight with my sister on the phone over something stupid. I was uncomfortable being there sober because from drinking it years before that, I mean 2020, 2021, 2022, like I was already convinced in my mind that I couldn't be in a social setting sober, because that's what alcohol does. If you drink it that long, at least for me, in my alcoholic mind, that's what I thought. And I was uncomfortable sober at this game, and I remember using that as an excuse to leave. I was like, you know what, I just wanna leave. But in reality, I just felt really uncomfortable being there sober. I think 250 something days, I'm 8 months sober, and it's almost like it just doesn't even exist. It's just something. Now I am just more clear-headed than ever. I tried to sit there and think for the longest, like, what was the reason that, like, what woke me up? And for a while I couldn't say it was because of what he did to me, because I didn't want to give him any credit. But I've grown past it. I am thankful I am in therapy now, but I definitely can say it was like a mixture of everything. Getting kicked out of my apartment, all of that happening, being at rock bottom, actually taking the time to be sober and get away from it, to realize like every single setback and rock bottom in my life, it's all been because of alcohol. Every single one of it. Every single one of those times was because of alcohol. And I only realized that from me being sober. There was a point in time in 2022 where I told my boyfriend at the time that if a doctor came and told me I needed to stop drinking to save my life, that I wouldn't. And I truly meant that. I really took it one day at a time. I didn't say like right out from the beginning, like I'm gonna give up drinking. I just knew that I didn't want to drink that day or the next day, and I wanted to just take it one day at a time. And that advice, like that mindset, is what helped me through being sober this long. Now I look at it as like 8 months, but before, when it was difficult for me to go one day, or to think about the next 2 days, or to think about the weekend, or I mean the summer, let alone, I just took it one day at a time, and that's what helped me. And I remember before I even said that I was gonna be sober, my mom would say things like, oh, well, she's not drinking. And I didn't like that at the time, because I wasn't planning on giving it up completely. It was the time away from it that really awakened me to it and made me have that self-realization. Because before I moved into the house, the longest I was sober was the 2 months at my parents' house, but I obviously did not realize it then. And then it was in 2019, and I've been doing it ever since then. And I'm grateful for the things that happened to me. I'm grateful for my wisdom and for my knowledge. I don't think there's a day that goes by that I am not 100% grateful for my sobriety, because I would not be here today if I wouldn't have gave it up. It was honestly slowly killing me. I want to say the biggest thing that helped me with it was God. I need to get better with my praying, but anytime I'm struggling with it, I don't really have thoughts about it anymore, but I used to. I would have thoughts like, I went on vacation sober and I spent the entire summer sober, and I'd have thoughts like, damn, I wish I didn't ruin it for me. But I've come to the realization that I cannot balance it. Like, that's just not something that I can do. Some people can balance it. Some people can have very successful lives and drink, and I have accepted that that's not me. I can't. I've tried to balance it and I just can't. So there'd be no point to try and balance it, because one, I can't, and two, in my mind, if I don't need it, then why would I need it? I just don't need it. It's not something that I need. And being sober this long has made me realize that, and I'm just truly grateful for that. Because some people don't realize it until they're 40, and I had a lot of struggles in the beginning, because I would be mad at myself. I'm like, why did it take me this long to realize? Why did it take 2 rock bottoms? Why did it take all these years? And my mom is the one that told me, she's like, Madison, some people don't realize it until they're 30 or 40 or 50. So you actually realized it pretty young. And I'm grateful for that. But I have a lot of alcoholism in my family, and my parents always warned me about that, and I just kind of shrugged it off. Another thing I want to say is I was driving somewhere the other day, and I had a thought, and this is just so crazy. There's this girl that I follow on Instagram, and we've been following each other for a while, and I don't know if she's gonna see this, but hey, because you probably know it's you, but she is sober as well, and she posted something in her story, and she's like, yeah, I'm 6 months sober, and da. And I had a thought. I know I'm a true alcoholic, and it took me a while to be able to admit that. Bear with me when I try to explain this, but it is so mind-blowing to me that like someone can give up alcohol and they didn't have to go through what I went through to realize that. But some people can give it up. Some people don't need it, and it's just so mind-blowing to me, because in my mind it's addicting to everyone. And back then, in my mind, I thought everyone was drunk all the time. It was mind-blowing that like people could have fun, exciting, happy personalities without it. But that was just the alcohol speaking, because we're sober when we're teenagers. I was sober when I was a teenager. I was sober when I was a kid, and I had the best life. I had the funnest life. The times that I was sober in my life, those were the most fulfilling times of my life. But in my drunk mind at the time, it just convinced me. It's like it was like a demon or something that just like completely transformed my mind, just convinced me that I needed it. And it is mind-blowing to me now that someone could just give it up like that, and they didn't have to go through any hardships. They could just easily give it up, and that's so crazy to me. Because like, yeah, in my mind it just seems like it's just addicting for everyone, and that's not the case. But I'm glad and grateful that I came to this realization that alcohol is just not for me. It's something that took over my life, and every setback that I've ever been through in my life was because of that. And I know that 1, I could do anything without alcohol, and 2, I know I'm doing something right if I'm not drinking. But I've matured so much since I've given up alcohol. I've grown so much, and there's moments that I have when I'm just sitting at lunch, and like yesterday I went to lunch and I was sitting looking out on the ocean. I was telling my friend, like, sometimes I just sit here in just complete gratitude that all the things that happen, the butterfly effect, everything that happened. So I realized that I just cannot drink. And I'm grateful because I wouldn't have given it up if I didn't give it up. And I wouldn't have stopped because I didn't know then what I know now. So I made a list in my phone and I write in it all the time, just stuff that comes up that I think of, just the bad things about alcohol. And about the praying thing that I was talking about earlier, ever since I started my sobriety, I've been praying to God and I've been asking him every day to remind me the bad things about alcohol. Not that I was craving it or anything, but like thoughts come up, like, damn, I wish it didn't come to this. Or I would start getting reminded of like just the fun times when I was drinking, or just stuff would pop up and I need to ask God, like, please remind me the bad stuff about alcohol. And I have a list in my phone that I want to read to you guys. I stopped going to the gym, held me back from my goals, it made me lazy, caused me to stop working on my business, fogs my mind, hangovers, you crave bad foods, it's bad for your body, time flies by so fast. I started depending on it for social outings. I only looked forward to drinking. That's so deep. It makes you hold on to water weight. You start fights with people. You overreact and get emotional and angry with people. It makes you feel dumb and slow. It definitely blocks your third eye. You spend a lot of money on random things and random food. I mean, all the weight that I gained, depression up, self-worth down, makes you numb to all the feelings. It ages you, procrastination. I was afraid in the moment that like I would never enjoy anything sober again. Like it just skews everything. It just makes you believe certain things. I only wanted to do things that revolved around drinking. Like I didn't want to travel because I couldn't be drinking the entire time. And that's so mind-blowing to me now. For example, like driving to the airport or waiting for the flight attendant to get you a drink. Like in 2022, I wanted to be drunk constantly, all the time. I actually started developing a rash from drinking, like a really bad, like pus-filled rash on my stomach. And I thought it was because I was allergic to specific types of alcohol, but it was just because of alcohol, because my body was probably rejecting it. And that's just so freaking crazy to me. I distanced myself from my family. I would only talk to my mom and family when I was tipsy. I would never talk about serious issues sober. I only wanted to like talk about it over a drink, or, you know, talk about serious things over a drink. Like it just made it to where because I was drinking all the time, I didn't want to talk about anything serious sober. It was honestly uncomfortable for me to do so. And then in that drunk mind, I was thinking to myself, like, how can I ever do things sober? Like, how does anyone do things sober? And that's what happens when you drink for so long and you use it as, 1, for socialization, and then 2, it started to turn into a band-aid for issues. I only wanted to socialize with people who were also drinking. My progress and potential stopped when I started drinking. I thought I would never want to give it up. I felt like I never had real depth with people, and I didn't have like real, serious depth relationship. I pictured myself doing it forever. You lose control over everything, yourself, situations when drunk. I just started to get mad at the world and people in general, and I felt very far away from God. During that time, I felt like when I prayed, like God would not listen to me, he would not hear me. I just literally did not feel him with me. And I feel like he did that so I could see a life without him and with him, because now, you know, even if I go a little bit without praying, I still feel him present in my life. I feel him listening, I feel him with me. And I feel like he just completely left during those times, so I could now see a life with him and I could understand the difference between the two. It pushed me away from goals and dreams. I was just so far from myself, and I had like awful values and opinions on things. I just had the complete feeling of lostness and no grasp of myself. I started getting obsessed with TikTok because it would make the time go by faster, and alcohol already did that. So as you can imagine, I mean, those years just went by so quick, and I would just push it off. I mean, I only started like post on my stories when I was drinking. Like I would get like this like boost of courage or something, and I would just start posting on my story, and it turned into like a superhero cape. My entire self went out the window. My values, my habits, my goals, my hobbies, my passions. I couldn't open up to my family. I started getting black stuff in my lungs, started like coughing out black stuff. I would have the shakes 24/7, even months of not drinking. I still had the shake out of my system. Bless you. I feel like it didn't get out of my system. Are you sneezing? Are you okay? I feel like it didn't get out of my system for like at least 3 months. I mean, because think about how long I was drinking for. It took a while, and I remember I would just like shake all the time, like just like constantly be shaking. I had like zero sex drive during this time too, and like the list goes on and on and on. And that's just a list that I have for myself, and if you are thinking about being sober, or you can kind of relate to some of the stuff that I've gone through, I definitely suggest making a list. So you could write it in all the times, just so you could look it over anytime you have any thoughts or temptations or however. You could look at that list and just remind yourself all the bad stuff about drinking, because sometimes you forget. So having that list is really what helped me, and also taking it one step at a time. And I would love to make a sober video if it'd be helpful. But yeah, I think this video is coming to an end. Third time's a charm for sure. This is gonna be the video that I post. I feel a lot better, and I really just want to get out this video so I could like get everything else on track, because I feel like this has been the thing that I've been putting off. This is the thing that I was most nervous for. Opening up and talking about these issues openly like this was something scary, but honestly after the third time filming it and going to therapy and just being in such a great place in my life is just, it just feels right. And when I came back to Instagram in May, I wasn't even fully ready. I just felt like I was pressured to, in a way, because it was a year that I was gone, and I just felt like I needed to post, or like Instagram was gonna like shadow ban my account forever. So when I came back in May, I was not truly ready, and still I have like some reserves posting on social media. I actually enjoyed not posting, and then when I moved into the new apartment and I didn't post from like April to May, that was 2 months, I was so happy. Like truthfully, I was so happy not posting on social media. I mean, I was gone for a year. I didn't post for 6 months in 2021, and I truly like stopped being myself like in 2020 to 2021. So it's been a while since I've been just posting freely on social media. Sometimes I feel like a beginner. I feel like this is like my first YouTube video. I feel like it's like every time I post on Instagram, it's like my first post. But I'm gonna get used to it. I definitely want to like practice just saying fuck it and having that fuck it mentality. That is like my goal, and I feel like it'll just get easier as the time goes on. And I feel like it'll just get easier as time goes on, and just heading into this brand new chapter of mine. I'm just really excited. I'm excited for life and happy to be back on YouTube. YouTube has always been one of my favorite places to post. I feel like I could 100% be myself on here. I could just talk about everything, and I feel like disappearing from Instagram for a year and then coming back and just having TikTok take over, and like all social medias are like TikTok now. Everyone just wants like quick 5-second clips, and that's just not me. I feel like that's another thing with Instagram, is like it's changed completely. So when I was on it, it was like everyone wanted pictures, and now like the algorithm and everything, everyone wants like 5-second clips, and that's just not me. I just don't like doing that, especially since I was gone for so long. I want to like share more than just a 5-second clip with a song and like tips that pop up for 2 seconds where you can't even read. You have to like save the video and screenshot. But like I said, I'm happy to be back. I cannot wait to give you guys more updates and make more videos and just share my life, because a lot has happened and a lot has changed, and I can't wait to share all the parts. And I want to bulk, which is even more exciting because I haven't bulked since 2019. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you watched the whole thing, I love you so much. I appreciate you, and I cannot wait to be making more content and just sharing all the stuff that's going on in my life. If you guys want a sober video or anything like that, I would love to make one of those for you. I feel like I have a lot of great tips. Thank you guys again, and I will see you in my next video. Okay, bye.